Well, good afternoon. I'm Lisa Fry, the Catholic unschooler and / very relaxed homeschooler. Today I would like to talk about just a little bit. I have to leave, but I want to talk about how to, if you're married, this is for married couples, and I would assume it would be for if you're dating somebody or engaged. You know how you want to try to change somebody? You want them to be, and you might have good reason. You might say, you know what, they're doing the wrong thing, and I, on the other hand, am doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. So why is it that they can't, do what I want them to do? God, it's only right, it's only good. What's the problem, right? And you have to examine yourself. And I know for me, it was stages, right? It didn't just happen. I remember praying the rosary, and what happened was I saw a picture in my mind of Saint Therese, okay? And I saw her serving. If you don't know who Saint Therese is, you can. She was a very young lady, and the church found her to be a saint. So her way was little. Okay, it was very simple. That's why the church found favor with her. That's why God found favor with her, because everything that she did was little. Meaning, she said that, she can make all the mistakes in the world, and everybody saw that very fast. But if she did all the little things, like getting somebody a glass of water and serving people in this way, very small, then nobody noticed. So when I saw this picture in my mind of her, she was a nun, and she died, I think, at 24, 25. And so I saw a picture of her serving with her habit on, her nun habit, and she was serving. She wasn't smiling, she wasn't doing anything, she was just serving. And for years I kept seeing her down this long tunnel, as though I couldn't reach her. And I knew that no matter how I tried to love my husband, it was some form of manipulation on my part, and I had to go through so many spiritual battles where I felt like I was dying physically and spiritually and mentally. And I remember being at Mass one day, and I felt like I couldn't even open my eyes. I had to hold on to the pew in front of me. I was exhausted from fighting this spiritual fight. And I really know it was against the devil. Yes, he is real. And if you don't believe it, then he's already got you. So I was holding on to the pew in front of me, and I couldn't even open my eyes. I couldn't even look to see the priest. All I could do was hear, because I couldn't take any more information, and I was so exhausted from fighting and to try to just stay with it. So what happened was, it took about, what was it, like 9 years or more to really master, and I think I've got most of it under control. So, but it did take that long for me. And, my uncle once said to me, Lisa, the problem is that your husband doesn't believe that you love him. And I was like, what? So here we are going through a situation in our marriage. I didn't know how to overcome it. I kept trying different ways, but they were all really, now looking back, that they were really all manipulation. So after many, many years of seeking God's grace, and every time I'd pray the rosary, I'd want new, I got that picture in my mind of Saint Therese, but I wanted new help. And so I would ask Our Lady, what can you tell me today that I could do? And then I didn't receive anything. And I said at the very end, I'm like, okay, so you still want me to do this one thing. So I was supposed to be serving Steve, and that's it. Okay? So through these hard times, maybe your situation will be different, but my point is that when you know that God wants you to do something, you must do it. Don't wait for something else, some more information. You have to master the very first thing. So even though Saint Therese was way down the hallway there, one day I said to my friends, you know what? It feels like that Saint Therese opened the door, and now she's right there. I felt like I had mastered this one task of serving Steve, no matter what was going on, no matter how hurt I was. And so it was awesome because it was true. So I received these. Now, mind you, Steve always gives me daisies for flowers. My mother's favorite flower. I took it on my favorite flower to carry on tradition. Tradition is important. And so one day he comes home and he gives me roses. And I'm like, what? Now, throughout our relationship, you know, now and then roses here and there, but mainly daisies. And so again, at the second time, like a couple days after that, he gives me roses again. And I said, what's the occasion? He said, "Oh, just because." So one night, now stay with me. One night I am reading about the Pope. This one here, St. Francis. Oh, St. Francis. Pope Francis, excuse me. And so I just prayed to St. Francis, that's why. And so I read that he received, I think it was him. It was either him or St. John Paul II, okay? One of those. I have it in my book upstairs. But anyway, one of the popes had received roses from St. Therese. Now, St. Therese said on earth, before she died, at a very young age, that she was going to do her work, most of her work on earth in heaven. And I never understood that. So I never understood what that meant. Well, how can she do her work in heaven on earth? What does that even mean? Until I read about the Pope. And then, you want to come sit over here at me? So all of a sudden I understood. And because she had said that the way she was going to do that was by sending flowers, sending roses from heaven. So I'll remind you now, I got this picture of St. Therese serving. I tried it for 9 years. I kept failing, getting closer though. And then telling my friend that I felt like she had opened the door, meaning like I wasn't looking at her from afar anymore. I was up close. And then I get these roses. Well, I'm reading in this book in the middle of the night. You know when you wake up and you read your books? Well, I was doing that and I started wailing, crying really hard, like, oh my gosh, like these roses, they're not from Steve, they're from St. Therese. I was amazed. So the point here is, so thank you, St. Therese. The point is that instead of manipulating, you really have to examine your conscience. You have to examine yourself all the time, because even when you think you're doing a good thing, sometimes, most of the time, we have little, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Little suspicious ways about ourselves, you know, some kind of manipulation, right? Trying to get somebody to do something for us. So you really have to always go to Our Lady, always go to God and ask them to help you to do it with a pure heart, with no expectations, with no resentments, with no suspicions. And so when you do that, what happens is, now there was a saint, I'm reading about her now, Saint Elizabeth. She never saw the fruits of her labor with her husband. He was an atheist. When she died, he found her diary, and he was an atheist. He had become a Catholic priest after he read how much she loved him, and how much in real life that she showed him that she loved him. So my point is that she never saw it here on the earth. And it won't even matter. It's like, you know, I may never see certain things that I'm hoping for in my marriage. However, the main goal is that my husband and I get to heaven, period. My love for him has to be that he will get to heaven. Okay, so what? I don't get certain things that I want, you know, to happen in our marriage, in our life. The main goal is that he gets to heaven, right, Sarah? We need Daddy to go to heaven, and me to get to heaven, and we all have to get there. So,
well, duh, that's the whole point of life.
That's the whole point of life. You heard it from the babe.
Why the babe?
Because God calls you the babe. He says, out of the mouths of babes.
Wait, give me a shout out.
Sarah Navina. Okay, so my point here is that whether or not you see it here or now, you may, but I do believe that when we serve, this is charity, when you love, then what happens is it's like this automatic thing just occurs. It's like, you know, you put on the heat on the water and it boils. If you forget to put too much water in, then the pot is burning. There's like designs for everything. And when you love, it automatically does something. It humbles people, because if you're acting weird in any way, what happens is that people that you're communicating with can tell. They sense that. God gave them that design to tell if you're being a phony baloney or not. So you have to become as sincere and as simple as possible. And what that does is it causes that person that you're dealing with, communicating with, living with, whatever it is, to humble themselves and to look at themselves, because they can't see any faults with you. They can try, but when it comes down to it, what will happen is they themselves will change, because you're not against them now. Now you're for them, and then they feel that. They know it. They sense it. It's the design. So anyway, I had to go to the dentist with Sarah, and God bless you this day, and I hope that you will reflect on your conscience. And if you are married or not married, and you're just maybe engaged to somebody with a boyfriend or whatever, excuse me, that you will become as simple as possible and as sincere as possible. Pray to Saint Therese, and don't forget to pray your rosary and ask Our Lady for all the mysteries, because she always does what? Leads us to God.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yes.
You need to subscribe to me and her.
Sarah Navina. Don't forget to subscribe. People need people. Woohoo! To get more information. You can be part of our unschooling family. Okay. Oh, I feel like dancers. All right, unschooling family, become part of it. All right, God bless.